It started with a letter, crisp and cream-colored, sitting on Detective Mark Thompson's desk like a coiled snake. Slipped under his precinct door, it bore the fancy seal of the Pinewood Homeowners Association, a symbol Mark knew all too well. He was the lead detective in the city's major crimes unit, and that seal meant trouble usually tied to Margaret Hale, the HOA's self-proclaimed guardian of community standards. When he picked it up, the door creaked open, and there she was, Margaret herself, her smile as fake as a $3 bill, holding a tray of foil-wrapped cookies. "Detective Thompson, just a little thank you from the neighborhood," she purred, her voice syrupy enough to make his teeth ache. "Fresh-baked snickerdoodles for you and your team." Mark blinked, caught off guard. Margaret bringing cookies? His gut screamed warning bells. Thanks, Mrs. Hale. "That's kind of you," he said, eyeing the letter. Her gaze flicked to it, her smile twitching for a split second. "Oh, that? Just some HOA nonsense about pool hours. Nothing to bother a busy man like you." She set the tray down, patted his arm like they were old pals, and breezed out, Leah vying a whiff of perfume and something sour behind. Mark stared at the letter, his instincts on high alert. This wasn't just HOA drama. This was Margaret playing chess. Inside, the letter was as petty as he'd feared, typed in a font that screamed bureaucracy. It demanded the hydrotherapy program for disabled kids where his daughter, Lily, a 12-year-old with cerebral palsy, found joy in a Waterby, moved to off-peak hours, or kicked out entirely. Signed by Margaret, it whined about noise, unsightly equipment, and the program's disruption of Pinewood's resort-like VYB. Mark's blood boiled. Lily lived for those sessions. They were her freedom, her laughter. This wasn't just a complaint, it was a declaration of war on kids like his. He was still fuming when his partner, Sergeant Tom Carter, poked his head in. "Mark, Mrs. Grayson from Pinewood's on the line. Says it's urgent. Something about Margaret and the pool." Mark's jaw tightened. "Put her through." Evelyn Grayson, a sharp-tongued 80-year-old who loved Lily's sessions, didn't hold back. "Mark, Margaret's losing it. She ambushed Sarah, Lily's therapist, after therapy today, ranting about how the special needs crowd is ruining Pinewood. Said they should use the filthy public pool by the factory." And then Mark, "This gave me chills," she muttered something as she stormed off. Some folks don't know when they're not wanted. Sometimes it takes drastic measures to set things right. It sounded like a threat, Mark. A real one. Mark's stomach dropped. Drastic measures? With the letter and her creepy cookie drop-off, Margaret wasn't just a nuisance anymore. She was dangerous. Tuesday morning, the Pinewood pool sparkled under the sun, a haven for Lily and her therapy group. Mark watched from the deck as Sarah eased Lily into the warm water, her face lighting up with a smile that could melt glaciers. These sessions weren't just therapy, they were magic, GIVYing her a body that moved like she dreamed. "Have fun, kiddo," Mark called, blowing a kiss. "Love you, Dad," Lily chirped, splashing happily. As he turned to leave, Margaret appeared at the gate, but not the scowling Margaret he knew. She was all smiles, clutching a wicker basket stuffed with sports drinks, towels, and cookies. "Detective Thompson, my dear," she gushed, her voice so sweet it made his skin crawl. "Just dropping off some goodies for our inspiring therapy kids." Such dedication. Mark froze. This wasn't right. "That's thoughtful." He managed, his mind racing. Margaret pushed past him, chattering about helping Sarah with the tricky pool lift, her eyes glinting with something unhinged. Sarah, polite but tense, waved her off. "We've got it, Mrs. Hale." But Margaret insisted, bustling around, handing out drinks, adjusting towels, even steadying a kid on the ramp. For 30 minutes, she played the perfect volunteer, but Mark's gut screamed danger. He had a deposition to get to, so he forced himself to leave, blowing Lily another kiss and shooting Margaret one last wary glance as she chatted up parents about pool noodles. He vowed to call the HOA president the second he hit his desk. 45 minutes later, his phone shrieked. "Detective Thompson, code 3, medical emergency at Pinewood Pool. Chemical exposure. Your daughter Lily's affected." The world spun. Chemical exposure? Mark was in his car before the dispatcher finished, siren blaring, heart pounding like a war drum. The drive was torture, every second an eternity. When he screeched into the lot, chaos greeted him: ambulances, fire trucks, cops, lights flashing like a nightmare carnival. The air stung with a sharp, acrid smell that burned his throat. He sprinted to the pool, badge out, and stopped dead. Kids and adults were being pulled from the water, their skin red and raw, some screaming, others coughing like their lungs were on fire. Sarah, her face blistered, was comforting a sobbing boy. And then he saw Lily, on a gurney, trembling, her skin angry and peeling, her eyes shut tight, tears streaming. "Daddy, it burns," she whimpered, her voice barely hers. Mark's heart shattered. "I'm here, baby. You're gonna be okay," he choked out, stepping back as paramedics rushed her to an ambulance. A paramedic's grim voice cut through. "Severe chemical burns, possible respiratory damage. It's corrosive, detective. We need to move." Mark turned to Captain Reynolds, the hazmat chief. "What the hell happened?" Reynolds, in a bulky yellow suit, didn't sugarcoat it. "Someone dumped a massive dose of acid in the pool. pH readings are off the charts. This was no accident, Mark. It was targeted." Mark's mind locked onto one name: Margaret Hale. Maria, coughing and furious, grabbed his arm. "Margaret was here, Mark." All smiles, helping. Then she went to the pump room right before the screaming started. "I heard her mutter, 'They got what they deserve for stealing our pool. Let the little pests cry.'" It didn't click until now. Mark's blood ran cold. Near the Sayre VYC entrance, he spotted a jerry can, its cap off, a glove discarded nearby. "Bag it," he barked to forensics. "Check for prints, traces, everything." The lab moved fast. They conheld sulfuric acid, and a partial print matched Margaret's from her HOA file. A hardware store owner, Evelyn's brother-in-law, ID'd her buying 10 gallons of acid days earlier. Her agitation OBVYS on security footage. A raid on Margaret's pristine home sealed it. 9 acid jugs in her garage, 1 empty, and a deleted computer file titled Pinewood Pool Acid Dosage. Her browser history was a horror show: searches for pool sabotage and undetectable poisons. In interrogation, Margaret tried to pin on the maintenance guy, then a parent, but the EVY Denke crushed her. "Fine, I did it," she screamed, her face twisting with hate. Those freaks ruin our pool, our community. My son, Michael, was like them, sick, needy. He died at 8, and no one cared. These kids get everything: special treatment, pity. It's not fair. I wanted them gone to feel the pain I did." Her confession, raw and ugly, laid bare a mother's grief twisted into madness. The trial was brutal but swift. Lily, still scarred, gave a VY Deo statement that broke hearts. Margaret, unrepentant, rambled about her own pain, earning no mercy. Con VY Ted of assault and chemical terrorism. She got life without parole, her assets funding VY Tim Care. Months later, Lily returned to a revamped pool, her spirit shining despite faint scars. Pinewood rallied, adding safety systems and a kinder HOA. Mark, haunted by what-ifs, watched her swim, pride mixing with sorrow. One night, as Lily laughed about her day, he drafted a letter to Margaret he'd never send, writing of Lily's courage and the community's strength, hoping she'd face her pain someday, not as justification, but as a step toward redemption. "Will my scars ever go away, Dad?" Lily asked, tracing her arm. "Maybe not, kiddo," Mark said, hugging her tight. "But they're proof you're a fighter. They're not your whole story." Pinewood's pool sparkled again, a symbol of healing, a middle finger to hate. So what do you think? Was Margaret a monster, or a broken soul who snapped? Should Mark have acted on his guts sooner, or was he right to wait for EVY Denke? Could Pinewood have stopped her before it went this far? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if this gripped you, and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you up at night.